Welcome back to Be Inspired from Life. Let me tell you something about waiting. We dress it up real nice. We call it patience. We call it timing. We tell ourselves we're being responsible, that we're just not ready yet. But if we're honest, really honest, most of the time waiting isn't wisdom at all. It's fear wearing a clean suit, standing tall, pretending it belongs in the room. I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen it in people from every walk of life. Smart people, talented people, people with more potential than they even realize. They're not lazy, they're not unmotivated. They're just waiting for the right moment, waiting for the confidence to show up, waiting for someone to tell them, now it's your turn. And while they're waiting, life keeps moving. Time doesn't pause, opportunity doesn't knock twice, and slowly, quietly, that waiting turns into regret. Here's the truth we don't like to face. Fear doesn't always feel like fear. Sometimes it feels like logic. It sounds reasonable. It whispers, what if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you're not good enough yet? So you delay. You plan a little more. You think a little longer. You promise yourself you'll start tomorrow, next month, next year. And before you know it, years have passed, and the dream that once kept you awake at night now feels distant, almost unfamiliar. Waiting becomes comfortable. That's the dangerous part. Because comfort doesn't challenge you, and comfort doesn't transform you. Comfort keeps you exactly where you are, and deep down you know it. That little voice inside you knows it. It reminds you every time you see someone else living the life you imagined for yourself. Not because they were smarter or luckier, but because they moved while you hesitated. Fear loves to convince you that you need certainty before you act. But certainty is a lie. Life has never offered guarantees, and it never will. If you're waiting for a moment where you feel completely fearless, completely prepared, completely confident, let me save you some time. That moment isn't coming. Courage doesn't show up first. Action does. Courage follows. Think about it. Every major shift in your life happened when you stepped into uncertainty. The job you took before you felt ready, the conversation you were scared to have, the leap you made even though your hands were shaking. You didn't wait until the fear disappeared. You moved with the fear. And on the other side of that movement, you found strength you didn't know you had. Waiting tells you to protect yourself, but growth requires risk. Waiting tells you to stay safe, but purpose demands courage. And the longer you wait, the more power you hand over to doubt. Doubt grows in stillness. It shrinks in motion. You see, fear doesn't want you to fail. It wants you to never try. Because if you never try, you never prove it wrong. So it keeps you busy, preparing, thinking, analyzing, perfecting. It keeps you stuck in the rehearsal, never letting you step onto the stage. And life doesn't reward rehearsals. Life rewards presence. Life rewards action. The moment you recognize waiting for what it truly is, something shifts inside you. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And you start asking, what if this is my moment? You stop waiting for permission and start trusting your instincts. You stop living in someday and step into now. This doesn't mean you won't be afraid. You will be. That's part of it. But fear no longer gets to drive. It can sit in the back seat, make all the noise it wants, but it doesn't get to choose the direction. Because here's the thing, every day you wait, you're making a decision. Not choosing is still choosing. And when you finally understand that, when it really sinks in, waiting loses its grip on you. So don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to feel confident. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Move while your voice shakes. Step forward while your heart is racing. Take the chance while fear is still talking, because the moment you stop waiting, you don't just change your circumstances. You change who you are. At some point in life, you have to face a hard truth, one that doesn't come wrapped in comfort or applause. No one is coming to save you. There is no perfect mentor walking through that door to fix everything. No moment where the universe lines up and says, all right, now you're ready. That moment you're waiting for, it's not on the calendar, it's in your hands. From the time we're young, we're taught to look outward. We're told success comes from being chosen, noticed, approved. We wait for the callback. We wait for the green light. We wait for someone to see us, believe in us, invest in us. And yes, support matters, but waiting on it can quietly steal your life. Because while you're waiting to be picked, life is waiting for you to pick yourself. Here's what changes everything: the day you stop expecting rescue and start accepting responsibility. That's not a burden, it's freedom. The moment you realize that your life is not in someone else's hands, you take your power back. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop pointing at the past. You stop saying, if only they had, and start saying, from here on, I will. Responsibility is uncomfortable because it leaves no room for excuses. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that some of the doors you were standing in front of aren't locked. You just haven't pushed them yet. And that realization can sting, but it's also the most empowering moment of your life. Because if no one else controls your future, then no one else can limit it either. A lot of people spend years waiting for motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline and ownership, that's what lasts. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who felt inspired every day. They're the ones who showed up when it was inconvenient, uncomfortable, and unseen. They didn't wait to feel ready. They moved because they decided. And let me be clear, taking responsibility doesn't mean you won't struggle. It doesn't mean the road suddenly gets smooth. It means when things get hard, you don't look around for someone to carry you. You adjust, you learn, and you keep going. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? When you take ownership, your mindset shifts. You stop being a spectator in your own life and become the author of it. You stop hoping for a breakthrough and start building one. And the world responds differently to people like that. Opportunities show up when you show up. Help appears when you're already in motion. There's something powerful about a person who no longer waits for permission. They don't announce their moves. They don't seek validation. They work quietly, consistently, and with purpose. And over time, that quiet commitment turns into visible results. Not overnight, not magically, but inevitably. You don't need someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. You don't need approval to begin. You don't need a safety net to take a step forward. All you need is the decision to stop handing your future over to chance and start claiming it as your responsibility. Because the truth is, rescue never builds strength. Responsibility does. Waiting weakens you. Ownership sharpens you. And the moment you accept that this life is yours to shape, something inside you stands up a little straighter. So stop waiting for the call, the sign, the invitation. Stand where you are, take a breath and move, because the day you realize no one is coming to save you is the day you discover you never needed saving in the first place. Let me tell you something that might go against everything you've been taught. Most people think clarity comes first, that one day you wake up, the fog lifts, the path is obvious, and then you finally move. But life doesn't work like that. Clarity doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from motion. It comes from stepping forward when you can't see the whole staircase, only the first step. So many people are stuck because they're waiting to figure it all out. They want the full plan. They want certainty. They want guarantees. And while they're busy thinking, analyzing, second-guessing, life is passing them by. Opportunity doesn't wait for you to feel confident. It responds to action. Think about it. How many times have you said, once I feel ready, I'll start? But ready is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They change with the weather, with the mood, with the opinions of others. If you wait for a feeling to give you permission, you'll wait forever. Action is what creates readiness. Action is what sharpens your vision. You don't get clarity sitting on the sidelines. You get clarity in the arena. You get it by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Every step forward teaches you something you couldn't have learned by thinking alone. Every mistake gives you information. Every setback gives you direction. But none of that happens if you don't move. Fear will tell you that you need clarity to be safe. But safety is overrated if it costs you your purpose. Growth requires uncertainty. Every meaningful decision you've ever made was wrapped in some level of doubt. The difference is, you moved anyway. And once you did, things started to make sense. Action has a way of quieting the noise in your head. When you're moving, you don't have time to overthink every possible outcome. You're too busy learning, adapting, becoming. Doubt thrives in stillness. It weakens when you're in motion. The moment you act, even imperfectly, your mind shifts from fear to focus. A lot of people want confidence before they act. But confidence isn't something you find, it's something you build. And you build it by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you take action despite uncertainty, you prove something to yourself. You say, I can handle this. And that belief grows stronger with every step. Clarity also doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means you understand yourself better. You learn what matters to you. You learn what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. You learn where your strengths are and where you need to grow. That kind of clarity only comes through experience. Waiting for clarity is like waiting for muscles before you go to the gym. It doesn't work that way. You don't get stronger by imagining the workout. You get stronger by showing up and lifting the weight. And yes, it's heavy at first. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is a sign that something is changing. When you take action, the world responds. People notice, opportunities appear, not because you had it all figured out, but because you were willing to move. Momentum attracts momentum. Motion creates energy. Stillness drains it. And here's the truth. You're not supposed to have all the answers right now. You're supposed to grow into them. Life reveals itself to those who participate, not those who wait for instructions. You learn who you are by doing, not by wondering. So stop asking yourself if you're ready. Ask yourself if you're willing to try, willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to keep going when the path isn't clear yet, because the path becomes clear as you walk it. Take the step, then take the next one. Trust that clarity will meet you in motion, because the moment you move forward, the fog doesn't disappear behind you, it disappears in front of you. There's something you learn about time as you get older. Time doesn't slow down because you're confused. It doesn't speed up because you're motivated. It doesn't care how good your intentions are or how hard your past has been. Time moves forward with or without you. And here's the part most people don't realize until much later. Time doesn't reward wishful thinking. It responds to responsibility. A lot of people feel like time is working against them. They say life passed them by, that the window closed, that they missed their moment. But time isn't cruel, it's neutral. What changes everything is how you show up to it. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, your choices, your habits, your direction, time shifts from being your enemy to becoming your greatest ally. Responsibility is a heavy word. People hear it and think pressure, blame, stress, but real responsibility isn't about punishing yourself for the past. It's about owning the present. It's about understanding that where you are right now is the result of patterns, decisions, and actions, and that means where you are going can change the moment those patterns change. When you stop blaming circumstances, something powerful happens. You stop saying, if only things were different, and start asking, what can I do, why, what I have. That question alone puts you back in control, because you may not control what happened to you, but you absolutely control how you respond to it. Time respects people who show up consistently, not occasionally, not when it feels good, consistently. The kind of consistency that isn't flashy, the kind that happens when no one is watching. Small choices, repeated daily, compound over time in ways most people underestimate. But the opposite is also true. Small excuses, repeated daily, quietly cost you years. Responsibility is where discipline is born, and discipline is freedom. It's the freedom of knowing you don't need motivation to act. You don't need the perfect mood. You don't need external pressure. You do what needs to be done because you said you would. And every time you honor that commitment, you build trust with yourself. That trust is priceless. People often say they don't have enough time. But time isn't something you find, it's something you prioritize. You make time for what you take responsibility for. When you own your goals, your growth, your future, you start protecting your time differently. You stop wasting it on distractions that don't serve you. You stop handing it away to things that don't matter. And here's the truth. Time doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be consistent. It needs you to show up again after a bad day, again after a setback, again after a failure. Responsibility doesn't mean never falling. It means always getting back up and continuing forward. When you take responsibility, excuses lose their power. You stop saying you'll start when things calm down, when life gets easier, when conditions improve. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger, and strength is built through responsibility. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're doing the work, even when results haven't shown up yet. That confidence isn't loud, it doesn't seek validation, it's grounded, and over time results catch up. They always do. Time sees the effort you put in today and multiplies it tomorrow. The people who seem lucky are often just responsible for longer than others. They kept going when no one clapped. They stayed disciplined when it was boring. They took ownership when it would have been easier to quit. And time rewarded them, not because they were special, but because they were consistent. So stop fighting time. Stop complaining about how fast it's moving. Start respecting it. Start using it. Take responsibility for your mornings, your habits, your mindset, your effort. Because the moment you do, time stops slipping through your fingers and starts building something for you, and one day you'll look back and realize this simple truth. Time didn't change your life, your responsibility did, and time simply followed your lead. Before anything around you changes, something within you has to move. Not your circumstances, not your bank account, not your title or your position, you. Most people spend their lives trying to rearrange the outside world, hoping that if things look different out there, they'll finally feel different in here. But it doesn't work that way. The shift always starts inside. Your life is a reflection of how you see yourself, not how you wish you were, not how you want others to see you, but how you truly identify when no one is watching. If deep down you see yourself as someone who waits, hesitates, plays it safe, that identity will quietly shape every decision you make. You won't even realize it's happening. You'll avoid risks. You'll settle for less. You'll talk yourself out of opportunities before they ever reach you. But the moment your identity changes, your behavior follows. And when your behavior changes consistently, your reality has no choice. To respond. Here's where people get it wrong. They think identity changes after success. They say, once I achieve this, then I'll believe in myself. But belief doesn't come from results. It creates them. You don't become confident because you win. You win because you decided to act like the kind of person who doesn't quit when things get hard. Identity is built through choices, small ones, quiet ones, the ones no one applauds. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for a new version of yourself. And over time, those votes add up. Suddenly, you're not trying to change, you are changed. The world responds to who you believe you are, not to your words, not to your intentions, but to your actions. When you start seeing yourself as someone who takes responsibility, who moves with purpose, who doesn't wait for permission, you walk differently. You speak differently, you carry yourself differently, and people feel that before you ever say a word. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't need to. Real change is quiet. It's internal. It's the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses and start aligning with your standards. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, who do I need to become to handle this? Your identity should pull you forward, not hold you back. If you keep telling yourself you're not ready, not capable, not lucky enough, your life will keep proving you right. But if you decide right now that you are someone who learns, adapts, and rises, your actions will begin to match that decision. And here's the powerful part. You don't need permission to change your identity. You don't need approval. You don't need evidence. You decide, and then you reinforce that decision with action every day, in small ways, until it becomes natural. When your identity shifts, patience replaces desperation, discipline replaces motivation, and self-respect replaces self-doubt. You no longer chase validation because you're grounded in who you are. And when you're grounded, the chaos around you loses its control. The outside world may not change immediately. That's where most people quit. They go back to old habits because results didn't show up fast enough. But stay with it, because reality always lags behind identity. Always. If you stay consistent, the results will catch up. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall or rise to the level of your self-image. So if you want a new life, you don't start by chasing new outcomes. You start by becoming a new standard. Decide who you are today, act in alignment with that decision tomorrow, and keep going. Because once your identity shifts, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself to meet you there. Everything changes with one step. Not the whole journey, not the entire plan. Just the first step. That's the part people underestimate. They think transformation requires a grand move, a flawless strategy, or a dramatic moment. But real change almost always begins quietly, with a decision so small it feels ordinary. Until it isn't. Most people never move because they're overwhelmed by the distance. They stand at the starting line staring at how far they have to go, convincing themselves they're not ready, not strong enough, not prepared enough. But the distance doesn't matter yet. The only thing that matters is direction, and direction is chosen in an instant. The first step doesn't need confidence. It creates it. The first step doesn't need clarity. It generates it. The first step breaks the spell of hesitation that keeps you frozen in place. The moment you move, even slightly, something shifts inside you. Your body follows your decision. Your mind follows your body. Momentum begins where thought ends. Fear loses its power when you take that step. It doesn't disappear, but it shrinks. It stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a companion that you can walk past. The imagination magnifies fear when you stand still. Action puts it in perspective. And here's the truth most people miss. Life is always responding, not to your intentions, not to your hopes, but to your movement. When you take the first step, you send a signal. Not just to the world, but to yourself. You say, I'm serious. And that seriousness changes how you show up for the next moment. That first step could be a conversation you've been avoiding, a routine you've been putting off, a commitment you've been postponing. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it rarely is. Perfection was never the requirement. Participation is. Once you take that step, something else happens. You realize you're still standing. You didn't fall apart. The world didn't end. And that realization builds courage faster than any motivational speech ever could. You stop asking if you can do it and start asking what comes next. Momentum is a powerful thing. It turns effort into energy. What felt heavy starts to feel possible. What felt impossible starts to feel within reach. Not because the path changed, but because you did. Each step makes the next one easier, not because it's smaller, but because you're stronger. People who succeed aren't the ones who knew everything at the beginning. They're the ones who were willing to begin without knowing everything. They trusted that the next step would reveal itself once they took the first one. And it always does. The first step also marks a line in the sand. After that, there's no pretending you didn't choose this. You stop living in the comfort of maybe and step into the responsibility of yes. That's where growth lives. That's where character is formed. You don't need to move fast. You just need to move. Progress doesn't demand speed. It demands consistency. One step taken daily changes a life, and one step avoided daily keeps you exactly where you are. If you're waiting for a sign, this is it. If you're waiting for permission, you already have it. The future isn't built all at once. It's built step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment. So take the step. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Because once you do, hesitation breaks, momentum begins, and the life you've been waiting for finally starts moving toward you. Thank you so much for watching. If this video inspired you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to be inspired from life for more motivational content. And remember, no matter where you are in life, you have the power to change your future. See you in the next video.